Hey guys, today we'll just be continuing with our C video tutorial, so we'll just be working with some strings. So I'm using C-Line. It's a bit better than Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code because it lets you walk through the functions a bit more. Some of the functions were kind of breaking out, so I am using C-Line. So we'll just start with some import statements. We'll say hashtag include. We'll include this header file, stdio.h. And we'll just call our main function this time return int instead of void, which is a whole number. So unfortunately in C there's no string. You have to use character arrays. It's kind of one of the setbacks. So here we'll input a character array. So we'll call it char, we'll just say str. And we'll say index to 20 elements. And we'll just call the printf function, and we'll say printf, we'll just say enter a string. So here we're just taking standard input, and then here we'll call scanf to take standard output. So quotations and then %s for the format modifier. And outside the quotations, comma, and then we'll say, what are we calling? We'll just call str. No ampersand because it's already being pointed to, but I think you can put an ampersand to call the memory location as well. So here we'll just say we're just reading a string. So then here we'll call printf again. And we'll just say the string is %s in the quotations, and then outside the quotations we'll call str, semicolon, and then we'll just return 0. So just save that, and we'll put a breakpoint there at line 4. So here we're just going to execute this line. It says printf enter a string. So step over, and then in the output you can see it says that. And here scanf, now it's asking for input. So if we step over that, it's going to wait until we enter something. So we'll just say this is a string. Or actually, I think it's just going to take one word, so we'll just say string name. And we'll say printf the string is, so it's going to print out what we said, what we type. The string is string name, and then return 0, right? Nothing too hard. So we'll just go to the next one. So now we'll just calculate the length of it. So we'll just say, same thing, we'll keep the int main and the include statements. We'll say, we'll declare, we'll initialize an array, a character array here, another one. With more elements, we'll just change it by, let's just say 50. Then here we'll just enter, actually let me delete this stuff. Okay, so printf, enter a string, same thing. scanf, and we'll say %s, comma, str. So we're saving the input to str. Then here we'll write a for loop. So for I is equal to 0. So this is an advanced for loop, kind of advanced. So for I is equal to 0, s of array index I does not equal to /0, which means null. So I is equal to 0. I think this needs an int. Oh, sorry, there should be an I up here, so char str and then comma I. So for I is equal to 0, s of array index I, sorry, str of array index I, does not equal, so quotation equals, in single quotations /0, which means null, semicolon plus plus I. So it's going to increment I first before it, so it's not going to increment I after, it's going to increment I first. Something wrong with that. I is equal to 0 str of array index I does not equal /0. Doesn't like the quotes. We'll come back. We'll just keep going for now. So we'll just say printf here. So the length of the string %d, and then outside the quotations we'll input I, and here we'll just return 0. So it should be fine. We'll just set a few breakpoints here. And I'll click the debug icon. So in our local variables, you can see we have a str, which is initialized to 50 elements, and the values. Remember that in C, the values will be initialized to garbage values. So all these numbers are just garbage numbers. So they don't have any meaning. So in all these memory locations, str of index 0, str of index 1, str of index 2 is just garbage values. You see we have 0, 0, 14, 53, negative 10, 127. So those are just random garbage values. So they have no meaning. And then we have I, which is initialized to 0. Then here so we're executing the line printf, enter a string. Then you'll see an output, enter a string. So now it's waiting for something. We'll just say like M055. So now for I is equal to 0, str of array index I does not equal null, plus plus I. So remember, at the end of our character array, there's going to be a null character that's going to signal the end of the string. So after, for example, like here our string was M055, like moss. At the end there's a slash 0, which is a null. That means the string is terminating at the end. So just remember there's a null character at the end, which is on the ASCII index. You can Google it, ASCII character index. You'll see that /0 represents null for the character code. So for I is equal to 0, it's going to increment through the array, which is our string. So I is equal to 0, str of array index 0, which is m. So is m equal to null? It's not. Then continue to the next element. So we'll step in here. So str of array index 0 is equal, well, it points to m, right? And on the ASCII character table, m has a value of 109. That's just the value of the lowercase n, right? So then that wasn't equal to null. So therefore that was true. So it entered the loop and it's going to print out length of the string %d and then I. So I should be 0 right now. So we'll just step over and then it'll print 0. Then we went back to the loop condition. We're still in the loop. So I was equal to 0 now, plus I. So I should be 1 now. So the difference between I++ and ++I is that before we go to the next line, it's going to increment I first, before it would increment I after. So it's a little tricky, but you can see that now it's going to be, it's 1 already before we even go down to the next line. So I is equal to 1, so str of array index 1, which is 0. We have in our string we actually had a 0 for that index. So str of array index 1 does not equal to null because it's 0. Then enter the loop. Then we'll print out length of the string is %d, comma I. So what is I? I is, at this time, it's 1. It's 1. It should be 1. So we'll step over, and you can see that it says now the length of the string is 1. Before the length of the string is 0. So now for I is equal to 2, str of array index 2 is not equal to null, I plus I. So what value in our string is 2, so our value is 5. That was our character value. Sorry, that was our actual string value, was 5. So it's not null, so it's still true. So now it's going to print out the next length incremented by 1. It should be 2. Then back to the top loop condition. So now I is, before it was 2, so now I is equal to 3. str of array index 3 does not equal to null, plus I. So 0, 1, 2, 3, so it should be the last value of our string, which is moss, the third index. So 0, 1, 2, 3, so the fourth index is our last value, so we'll step in. Print the value. You guys can see what's happening, right? It's just incrementing by 1, printing our string and counting what number index of the string we're at. So now it's going to print out, it should print out 3. Now since our string index only goes to 3, now we have null, at the end. So this is where the condition becomes false. So I is equal to 0. str of array index, it was 3, so it should be 4 now. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 should be null. That's the last value. So the condition was false because it was null. See, it says str of array index 4 is /0, 0, 0, so that means it's null. It should just be /0, but that's okay, so you guys know that it's null. And that's the end, and then just return 0. That should be all, so we'll continue in the next video. If you guys like the videos, you can subscribe for more programming videos, and I'll see you guys next time.